Brewer for Cam Rising. And have you talked to Charlie Brewer at all, by the way?
Yeah, on a case.
Just checked in with him. Just wondering, because I actually heard him brought up earlier today as well. And
in what,
somebody,
a Bearcast or something?
Yeah, we're doing the Bearcast, and somebody, asked the question of, if you take all the past Baylor quarterbacks from like the last 20 years or whatever. Really this stretch where they've been successful. So what, since like 2010 basically?
Yeah.
Take that stretch of guys. Whose arm would you put like on this fictional creative player? Whose arm, whose running ability, whose durability, whose like smarts or whatever. It was like 5 things, and it was like RG3's legs, RG3's arm, RG3's speed. I think we did petty durability because he only missed the one stretch with the transverse process, whereas RG3 missed an entire year. Seth Russell was always hurt. So I think we went with him there. And then like as far as like Will or whatever, it was like Nick Florence or something like that. But we realized it was basically like the same 2 or 3, 4 guys,
Sure.
and there was nothing – like there was no Charlie, like we'd take Charlie Brewers, whatever. So his name just got randomly mentioned, and I was just curious of how he was doing.
What? Charlie was, and maybe it was just because of the nature of the way they had to win. Because RG3 had the great throw, of course, to Terrence Williams that beat Oklahoma. But for the most part, they weren't in nail biters. When they were winning, they kind of, especially that year of the Heisman, they either won by a lot
or got grilled.
Or they had that close game against Kansas State that they lost, but A&M and Oklahoma State beat the crap out of them.
Yep.
Badly.
Yep.
And so those were different. Bryce Petty didn't have a lot of nail biters because the offense was so explosively good. I would say the one thing I would take from Charlie Brewer is the end of the game, you need some crazy, stupid stuff to happen. Yeah. You need him to play completely different than he's played in the first 3 quarters. Charlie Brewer could turn on and be a different guy than he was for 48 minutes in those last, 12.
And that probably got him as much heat as anything, was that he would not play well for 3.5 quarters. And all of a sudden, like, their defense would keep them in the game. And with 6 minutes to go, he would go 3 for 5 for 3 touchdowns and 175 yards. And you're like, where was this the entire game? It was always at the end. It was never, like, can you recall a game where he just, like, from start to finish, just played a crisp, clean game?
Well,
like,
there might be one or two or 10.
But you know what I'm saying, though. That was kind of what his thing was.
You talk about somebody that, like, you could draw it up in the sand if there would have been sand on the field. You're right. I mean, there were times, even the last year, and it was it Kansas State or whoever it was, where he rallied them from behind, and it just like, how did he – and yet again, he was one of the most polarizing quarterbacks at the end when he left. Well, and a lot of it was because they were terrible.
He had the worst offensive surrounding cast of any of the guys that we mentioned, and it's not even close.
No,
I mean, line-wise and all of that, yeah.
If you put Gutty and I'll never forget, even though he had some amazing wins to throw to whoever it was it Denzel Mims in the end zone that beat Oklahoma State, but the game against TCU that went like how many overtimes when he scored one time on a keeper and then he threw the touchdown to death, I would think that was probably one of his greatest moments. The Oklahoma State game was, of course, and almost became when they were on the road in a year when they were 1-11 down in Austin. Remember, they're driving down the field. And he throws the ball a little bit over the head of Jalen Hurd in the end zone.
Now, granted, look, the Bryce Petty teams. They when they would lose because they were so good, it was because they fell, like, for Bryce, and he's joked about it, it's because he literally fell on his face. I mean, like, that's why they lost games. It wasn't anything that was like they lost a nail biter. Now Michigan State was a close game, but then again, they lost that game because they fell flat on their face because of different things. So it was a nail biter at the end, but for Michigan State, not really for Baylor, because Michigan State had to come back in that one. So yeah, I would say that would be the quality of who can turn off a crappy game when you're still close better. There was Charlie Brewer, but to Craig's point, that shouldn't have been a quality you'd have to have.
No, that's what became annoying. Yeah, was that it was always like at the very end. It's like if you just played this way for like 3 of the 4 quarters instead of the last 7 minutes, you would be 12-0. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was like that's what it was. It was
Gerard Johnson at Texas A&M was a little bit like that, where he was so unbelievably athletically gifted, he would keep both teams in the game simultaneously drive to drive. And you're kind of like, what is going on? And then there were the teams that, were A&M was better than. Then in the fourth quarter, it's like, all right, let's quit playing with our food here and go win.
I don't have the box score in front of me. I don't. But the Kansas State game in that year, they were 2-7. He throws for 349, a couple of touchdowns, and of course rallied him from behind. Was 31 of 39. I would love to know what his stats were at halftime. When we come, that's a great topic too.
3 of 10 for 100.
Yeah.
It would be something like that.
When we come, no question.